Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Terp Family Fundamentals webinar series. My name is Danielle Walker, and I'm the Program Coordinator in the Office of Parent and Family Affairs. For those that are new, this webinar series is intended to help you become informed consultants on campus resources so that you can better support your Terp. Today, we're joined by Erin Sorensen with the Maryland Center for Undergraduate Research. Erin will discuss the research opportunities at Maryland, how your Terp can start that process, and how you can support your Terp. If you find that you have questions, please feel free to submit those via the Q&A feature. To access the Q&A feature, find the two conversation bubbles towards the bottom of your screen. They should also say Q&A. If you don't see that, you may need to click on the three dots to expand the toolbar. To help us answer questions that the majority of you have, I ask that you use the upvote option. Within the Q&A feature, if you see a question that you would also like the answer to, instead of typing the same question, click the thumbs up icon. This is an upvote, and we will be prioritizing the questions with the most upvotes. Be sure to look at the answered tab as well for questions that have already been responded to. We will do our best to respond to as many questions as we can before the end of the webinar. Lastly, this webinar will be recorded and available on our Terp Family YouTube channel tomorrow. With that, I will hand off the presentation. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Sorensen, and I am the Graduate Assistant with the Maryland Center for Undergraduate Research. And thank you, Danielle, for inviting us to be here today. There are really three main ways that students can engage in learning beyond the classroom. And that's through research, which is supported on campus by the Maryland Center for Undergraduate Research, the internships, which are supported by the UMD Career Center and through academic advising, and service, which is supported on campus through the Leadership and Community Service Learning Center. So these are all ways for students to apply what they learn in class in a more hands-on environment. And today we're going to be focusing specifically on the research aspect of this learning. So the Maryland Center for Undergraduate Research, or MCUR for short, our office provides advising to help undergraduate students find and apply for research opportunities both on and off campus. We provide that advising. We also advertise research opportunities on our website. We meet with students to review application materials, and we are a resource if there's any questions about research. We also sponsor research programs to help foster undergraduate research at the University of Maryland, and have some programs to help students engage in their own research projects, and also host Undergraduate Research Day where students can present their research to the campus community. So for learning beyond the classroom, undergraduate research opportunities are really for students who are highly self-motivated and want to learn more about their subject outside of class. So what is undergraduate research? In classes, students are taught about what researchers have discovered, and by engaging in research, it allows students to become directly engaged in the process of discovery and learn how new knowledge is created. The two main activities at the university are teaching and learning, and two is the research. And so there are a lot of opportunities at UMD for students to participate in research opportunities with faculty on campus. Undergraduate research, again, extends the learning beyond the classroom, and students in all majors and schools can engage in research opportunities. All of these research opportunities look different. So the picture on this slide is more of maybe what you would picture as like a traditional science lab research experience. However, research can involve inventing, interviewing, fieldwork, observation, library research, archival work, and many other ways of doing research. And so it's not just done in the lab, but research happens in a variety of different ways based on the discipline. So some benefits of engaging in research are it can help students to gain a deeper understanding of a subject, also help gain new skills and experience that then can be put on a resume or help in finding other research opportunities or help in career goals later on. Also, research helps students to establish strong networks with peers and mentors, and which can also open up other opportunities and can help in preparing for graduate school. A lot of students that participate in research have their research mentors write them letters of recommendation for graduate study later on. Also, one of the foundations of graduate study is that students are participating in their own research projects. And so participating in undergraduate research helps set some building blocks to prepare for graduate study. So there's three main ways that undergraduates can engage in research. They're through on-campus research, off-campus and summer research, and student-led research. For the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to focus on on-campus research because it applies to the most students. However, if you have questions about off-campus or student-led research, I'd be happy to answer those later during the Q&A. Also, just as one thing to note, for the off-campus or summer research opportunities, many students do start to look for summer research during the winter months, as a lot of the deadlines are in January and February. So for on-campus research, we really encourage students to use our Maryland Student Researchers database. This is a database of on-campus research opportunities, which helps students and faculty connect with research opportunities. So the Maryland Student Researchers database has a list of active research opportunities that are actively looking for student assistance. We roughly have about 150 projects on the database each semester, and it's accessible on our website, which is located at the bottom of the slide, ugresearch.umd.edu. Each posting includes a project description, any required skills that the student needs to have, and a contact email that the student will contact that faculty member and apply directly to the research opportunity. The database is searchable by campus, college, and keywords, so students can take a look at what research opportunities best fit their interests. The opportunities that are listed on the database are generally unpaid. It really depends on the funding streams for the research, and usually are asking for a commitment of about 4 to 10 hours per week. So we first push or encourage students to look at the Maryland Student Researchers database, but the database itself is not comprehensive in the scope of research opportunities available on campus because not all faculty post their research opportunities with us. So we also highly encourage students to network with professors, peers, graduate students, and advisors to establish relationships and learn about research opportunities that can only be found through networking. Also, our office hosts Undergraduate Research Day every year. This is more kind of on the back end of research experience, which is a conference for undergraduate student poster presentations that's held every April. It helps give students experience in presenting their research, and again, is great experience to put on a resume or in preparation for graduate study. So to find on-campus research opportunities, we really encourage students to first try to adjust to the University of Maryland. For students that are just starting, the first priority is really to get your feet on the ground, stay up on studies, and we generally advise freshmen to wait until after the first semester of school before they start looking for undergraduate research opportunities, just because college is an adjustment. And so the best thing that you can do as family is to help your student adjust to UMD, get through that adjustment period, and then encourage them to start looking for other opportunities. Also, you can help students prepare for research by encouraging your student to talk to professors, peers, and advisors. So many students are nervous to reach out and talk to faculty members and often wait until they have a problem or a concern before going and meeting with their professors during office hours. However, some of the best relationships that students can make with professors is by going in and having conversations about research interests, about questions they may have or things that they find interesting that can start conversations early and frequently about research. And then also, you can help your student prepare for research by encouraging them to meet with the Maryland Center for Undergraduate Research, because we provide that one-on-one advising and can get a really good sense of what their interests and goals are, and get them directed in the right place. So some questions that you can ask your students to help get them thinking about research opportunities are, what are your interests or goals? Just starting a conversation about what are students hoping to get out of the college experience and looking forward to in the future. This can be a really telling question for what is the right direction for your student. Also, you can ask, what do you know about research in your field? What do you hope to gain through a research experience? And are there any courses or skills that can help you in participating in research? These are similar to questions that our office asks in our advising appointments, and they can really help start to get that conversation going with your students about research. So students sometimes worry about how to add more onto an already busy schedule. So getting credit for research can be a really appealing way for students to get that research experience while also moving towards their graduation goals. So students can receive academic credit for participating in research. However, interested students do need to go through a few steps in order to get credit. So first, they need to find a research opportunity and approve getting credit with the mentor, the faculty mentor that they are working with. Need to meet with their academic advisor in their department. Usually there's some pretty specific requirements for students who are getting credit for research in regards to the number of hours that students need to do for research, and also the final reporting requirements, doing a written paper at the end of the semester. And then once they meet with their academic advisor will open up a specific course that they can enroll in, and then they enroll in that research course and complete it over the semester. We do encourage students who are interested in getting credit for research, start looking for research opportunities semester to get credit for research, just because this process can take some time and it can be difficult to do all semester when everything is adjusting. So to find out more about research opportunities and to get in contact with our office, you can check out our website at ugresearch.umd.edu. There have links to the Maryland Student Reads database. We have information about how to find and identify on-campus and summer research. We have videos. We have Research Day, which is actually coming up on April 26th. And we're engaging in research at the undergraduate level. You or your students have questions, you can contact us at ugresearch@umd.edu, and office would be happy to either set up an appointment to talk to your students about their research interests, or help point them in the right way, start their research journey. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Erin. So I will go ahead and get started with some of the Q&A questions. Again, as a reminder, if you do have a question, please feel free to share that, submit that through the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. You should see 2 conversation bubbles with Q&A, and you can type through there. So the first question was, how do students apply? So again, it really depends on the process. Erin, is there anything specific that you want to add as far as how students apply?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just for on-campus research, you apply through contacting the member directly. And usually that just is the form of an email. Usually students will include a resume, also sometimes a transcript, especially if like some of the requirements for the research opportunity are to have certain courses completed or to be declared a certain major. Then including a transcript is really important. And then just treat the email itself as kind of a shortened cover letter of sorts, kind of talking about the students' research interests, why they're interested in this opportunity specifically, and their availability.
Thank you. And then can you share again how students can make an appointment to meet with someone from your office?
Yeah. Oh, I did want to just add on that last question, we also have on our website a beginning research page that goes over some more specifics about how students can apply for on-campus research opportunities. And we even have like a sample email. So students can really kind of go through and just use that information as they write their email. As for this question about setting up an appointment with our office, the best way is really just to email our office at the email here on the screen, ugresearch@umd.edu. And we'd be happy to schedule an appointment with your student.
Thank you. And for those of you all that can access the chat, I did share 2 links. One is just to the General Maryland Center for Undergraduate Research website. And then the second is that beginning research page that Erin just referred to. So definitely access the chat so you can get those links there. The next question we have is, is it more beneficial to get credit for research or just volunteer for research?
Okay. So this is one of those questions that the answer depends. It really depends on the goals for your student and what they're hoping to get out of the research experience. And then also it depends on what their time commitments look like. So often when students are asking about getting credit for research, in my experience, it's often because there's already a very full time schedule of classes with work, other things, other commitments. And so getting credit for research can help alleviate some of that, that sense of adding one more thing to an already busy schedule, because then one course, right, that they're taking. However, it basically can go on a resume the same way. And so you don't necessarily have to present the research opportunity any differently insofar as like graduate school applications or getting internships or jobs, or presenting that information on a resume or CV. It can look very similar. It really depends on what the student is hoping to get out of the experience.
Thank you. The next question is, are there summer research opportunities for students that live in the area?
Yes, this is a great question. So yes, on our website, we have 2 pages for summer research opportunities. One is research in the DC area, and the other is research in the US. And so if students want to stay local, then I would definitely recommend taking a look at the research in the DC area. And if they want to go elsewhere, then research in the US. And again, the deadlines for summer research generally are in January and February. And so they're pretty early on. We do encourage students to start looking at summer research opportunities, or at least starting their preliminary research of gathering opportunities that they're interested in about late November, early December, so that they can start preparing the materials, because to apply for summer research opportunities is a little bit more involved than on-campus research. For off-campus research, generally students have to write a short essay, which is kind of a personal statement, stating their research interests and how this research opportunity will help them reach their goals. Also, there's usually at least 1, sometimes 2 letters of recommendation that students need to gather, and it's easiest to start asking for that before fall semester, before students and faculty go on winter break. And then also transcripts are another component. So there's a lot more moving pieces into applying for summer research. So we encourage students to get started pretty early looking for those.
Thank you. And for those of you all that have accessed the Maryland Center for Undergraduate Research link that I put in the chat for their webpage, if you hover over current students, that'll bring up the options for research on campus, research in the DC area, and research in the US. So if you're looking for those pages, that's how you can get to that. The next question, my Terp is in the fire program. Is that program connected to MCUR?
Yeah, so so Maryland has a lot of really awesome research programs like FIRE for undergraduates. Also Gemstone is another one. And so no, those programs aren't directly connected with our office. We don't oversee any of those programs. However, we do work with a lot of students from FIRE, Gemstone, and other like honors programs or research related programs to help those students either continue their research journey once they're done with those programs by finding summer research opportunities or other opportunities on campus. But yeah, we don't actually oversee any of those programs specifically.
Thank you. The next question, do you have to be a freshman or sophomore to apply?
Very good question. Yeah, so no, you don't. Students from all backgrounds, all levels, all majors are welcome to apply for research opportunities, particularly on campus. Now, some of the on-campus research opportunities may specify certain majors certain levels, certain classes being required depending on the research opportunity and what skills are required to complete it. As for summer research opportunities, the most summer programs are available for rising sophomores and rising juniors. So that would be like current freshmen that are applying, or current sophomores applying, or even current juniors applying. So I would say it's difficult to find research opportunities for like graduating seniors. Those are more difficult, and even for first year freshmen, there's fewer, but they are out there.
Thank you. There is a clarifying question. So just to clarify, there is no on-campus research opportunities during the summer. Is that correct?
Okay, yeah. So okay, so this is kind of a complicated question to answer in some ways, because there are on-campus summer research opportunities. However, they are they're not as readily available as one might think. Part because a lot of faculty either are take a time to work on their other projects, or work on focusing on courses or other things. So most summer on-campus research opportunities go to students that either have a pre-existing research opportunity with a faculty member, and it just continues into the summer, or to students that are specifically reaching out about summer research opportunities. The opportunities listed on the Maryland Student Researchers Database are more for the academic year, so like fall and spring semester. But students are welcome to reach out to faculty to see if they are looking for summer research help. It's just because it's not a like a full semester, things can be a little bit more difficult to pinpoint as far as finding those types of opportunities, if that makes sense.
That does. That makes sense. The next question, what is the best way to network, both for research and for internships?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I can't speak fully to internships just because that's not the focus of our office. I know that the Career Center does have a lot of resources about like informational interviews and networking that way. When it comes to finding research opportunities, at least on campus, I would first encourage students to reach out to the faculty that they're taking classes from and start there, and maybe meet during office hours, and almost treat it kind of like an informational interview. So maybe talking about their own research interests and asking questions of a faculty member about their own research interests and what motivated them to get involved in the field of study, and maybe any research projects that they have currently happening. So I would say start with the faculty that students are taking classes from, and just asking questions to get to know a little bit more about research in the field.
Thank you. Our next question, if someone is thinking of doing research next semester, would they start looking now, or do they need to wait for the semester to begin?
Mm-hmm. So, and I'm assuming that by next semester, they mean fall 2021.
They didn't state specifically, but I would anticipate fall, just because we've already covered summer.
Fall. So. Okay, yeah. So for fall, Yeah, students can start reaching out now. We update the Maryland Student Researchers database every semester, usually about a month before the semester begins is when we start the process of updating everything. So not all postings that are up right now will be available in the fall. However, the majority of the postings that we have stay from semester to semester. So I would say that this would be a perfectly fine time for students to start reaching out to find fall research opportunities. But if not now, then August would be a great time to reach out a few weeks before the fall semester begins. Because once the semester starts, about 3 weeks into the semester, 4 weeks into the semester, it becomes a little bit more difficult to find a lot of opportunities because they're just filling up pretty quickly at that point.
Thank you. We kind of already touched on this, and I feel like the answer would be really to go and speak to the faculty members. But the last question we do have is any specific advice on finding research in the area of computer science?
So yeah, I would say, yeah, definitely network with professors, go and talk to any professors, either that your student is taking courses from right now. Also, your student can take a look at the faculty website for computer science and look at the research interests of the faculty members. That can also be a great way if they can't think of anyone, that they're taking a class from that they'd be interested in doing research with. Taking a look at the faculty directory is another great place to look. And then also the Maryland Center or Maryland Student Researchers database. Taking a look under the CMNS college, which is the Computer Material and Natural Sciences school. And there'll be computer science postings on that part of the database.
Thank you. And I anticipate that would be the same for psychology majors as well.
Yes.
Okay, great. So that wraps up our questions. We don't have any additional questions coming in. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to join us this afternoon. On this last slide, you'll see the contact information for the Maryland Center for Undergraduate Research. So if you do have any questions that either weren't answered today or you have questions later on, please feel free to reach out to their office and they'll be happy to assist. As I bring this webinar to a close, I do want to remind everyone that a recording of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel tomorrow. You'll also receive an email this afternoon or early tomorrow with a link to our YouTube channel as well as a short survey. Please let us know on that survey how we did, how we can improve on future webinars. And if there's another topic that you would like to learn more about, please feel free to share that on the survey so that I can look into bringing that webinar to you. We welcome your thoughts on that. So thank you all again and have a great rest of your day.